welcome to Snowpiercer Season 4, Episode 1, Snakes in the Garden review. If you aren't caught up with your Snowpiercer lore, I do have a Season 1 recap here and a Season 2 recap here, going over all the nitty-gritty details. And I am about halfway through scripting a Season 3 recap. Let me know if you actually need that extra information before hopping into Season 4 in those comments down below. But for now, let's go ahead and press on. This first episode starts us off 9 months after the close of Season 3. So let's dive into those characters. Starting with the people off train in the new colony in New Eden. Obviously we have Layton, Zara, and Josie. All three of them seem to be very happy, co-parenting together. The look we get at the New Eden colony is just amazing and fun and very exciting. It's like everything I've wanted for these characters for so long embodied in like a single couple of frames. Even if the rest of this season is garbage, everyone working together and pulling their weight and trying to recreate civilization just makes me so hopeful and happy it's been worth it just for these 40 minutes. It's really nice to see Layton happy and settled for once. His relationship with Zara seems friendly. He's in a romantic relationship with Josie finally. And he stepped down from being like the dictator head of the train, and he's let Ruth sort of take over the position as mayor, elected by everyone else. And he just has like a place on the council, which is really where he is most comfortable and works best, is like a leadership role in a group. So it's really nice to see that same sort of leadership structure that works so well in The Tale coming full circle and being part of New Eden, where everyone is like getting their second chance at life. As tragedy does strike New Eden, Layton's daughter Liana being kidnapped and Zara getting murdered in the scuffle, it's tragic to see Layton regress back to that wartime train hatred atmosphere. This regression is potentially necessary, and I think it's sort of signaling that there's no happy endings on or off Snowpiercer in this post-apocalyptic world. Next, we roll into Zara. Her tragic ending here feels super unfair. I haven't always liked her as a character, but I always found her like ethical, moral line relatable, and I felt she was like the most normal average human of everyone, like no superhuman ethics, no extra skills or anything. She's just there trying to survive the best way she can, and generally she'd prefer not to screw over other people, but she will when her own are on the line. Moving into Josie, she's always a solid addition. I love her cold woman skills. I love that we have a use and purpose for her. I really enjoy her as a character, and even though we don't get a lot of development here in this moment, I can't wait to see her in the next 6 episodes. Moving into Javi, I'm so excited this man finally gets a happy ending. I feel like he was really done dirty in Season 1, Season 2, and a lot of Season 3. So we finally get like a little bit of characterization. We learn a little bit more about his backstory. We get to see him happy, carefree, communicative, the leader and person in charge. We get to see him like excited, reaching out, building those connections. We get to see him as a respected member of the community. I feel like he was really caught in Ben and Melanie's shadow and oftentimes dismissed by the two of them, partially because of their romantic entanglement, partially because the show seemed to be portraying him as like the lesser of the engineers. So it's nice for him to be here, coming into his own. Boki's also in this. We don't have anything for him yet, but possibly we'll see more development as season progresses. We get a lot of development here from Oz, and I'm wondering if we're finally going to see his redemption arc here. Throughout the seasons, Oz has been a bad dude. He has a tragic past, which makes him kind of relatable and someone you're rooting for, like turning things around. At the same time, he never does anything to really like make amends for his wrongs on the train, acknowledge that what he did was bad or like anything like that. So it has always left him in kind of limbo. And it also often left like what he would do up in the air. Like in Season 2, where he helps Till and is friendly with her, even though he's like trying to become the head janitor in a relationship with LJ, and ultimately going to align against her and with Wilfred. So like you can feel this tension between like his relationship, where he's ultimately gonna go. And I think in Season 3 we see this the most because he's married to LJ, he loves her, wants to care for her, wants their relationship to flourish, and at the same time LJ is being really unreasonable, unpredictable, and putting both of them in danger. And also she's like directly against the one thing he wants to do, which is get off the train. I think maybe there at the end of Season 3 that was the first time he realized all those people rebelling and revolting that he kind of like had disdain for, they want things similar to what he wants in the long run, and he actually should have sided with them earlier and has to side with them now. But unsurprisingly, this doesn't really work out for Oz here at the open of Season 1 because he hasn't made amends to these people. He's known as like the quote quote-unquote blowy brakeman by most of the tale. He liked being on the train. Now that he's off train, he's quote-unquote stopped moving, all of the past has caught up to him and he's having like a reckoning moment. We're not 100% confident what's going on with him. Is he actually hearing things out there alone on the mountain, like radio signals or whispering or things like carrying in the wind or something? Does he have that kind of extra information? There is some things that are leaning towards him being insane, like he's talking about how LJ is leading a revolt and she's coming to get him and everyone else. And we know at the end of season 3, LJ died. Oz doesn't know that because he'd already left train, but we as viewers know that. Now granted, this show has pulled some stunts when it comes to who lives and who dies on the train, so perhaps after the camera stopped rolling, LJ was revived and maybe she really is doing this. And it would be narratively satisfying if season 1 starts off with LJ doing these murders on the train and then season 4 loops back with LJ leading this international peacekeeping resistance against the whole train. And then there's this concept of like, if they just nip this problem in the bud and put LJ in a drawer back in season 1, we wouldn't be having these troubles now. It may be even more narratively satisfying if she summoned them and then she suffered repercussions. All of her like wild chaotic energy is finally caught up to even her and things are spiraling even out of her control. However, I have to admit that is highly unlikely. It felt like the show was satisfied with the sort of like quiet, undignified, nobody cares ending they gave LJ in season 3. Dr. Hedwood is here at the colony, she's working at the clinic, and we find out pretty early in she's a traitor and working for the international peacekeepers. Unclear how or why. Did she know these people beforehand? Did they have a way to contact her? There's just so much right now we don't know. Ruth's here and she's the mayor. I love that the people elected her. I love how she leads. Everything about Ruth is really heartwarming. I just feel like she got such a great arc in season 2 and carried into season 3, and it's great to see all of that paying off and her being headstrong, powerful, confident, and like believed in by the people here at New Eden. Roach is out of the drawer. He's in charge of security. Presumably his family's happy here too. He's getting to see that new, better world he fought for, and I'm happy for him. Not a lot going on with Alex right now. I think she's going to be covering our environmental kerfuffle as she's seeing increased seismic activity that could impact New Eden, could impact the rails and therefore Snowpiercer, could impact the international peacekeeping bunker if it's not earthquake rated, or if like some kind of lava flow opens up near them or something. It's hard to say if it's going to be environmental catastrophe or if it's going to be like a natural disaster taking out the enemies kind of situation, but those are like my tentative predictions about where Alex's scientific journey might take us. Lights is here off train. It's just kind of nice generally to see most of the tale in New Eden seeming happy. Moving to on train, we see very little of them, so I don't have anything much to say about anyone, but we do know that Till, Ben, Melanie, Miles, and Audrey were all on train, with Audrey making it off train to warn New Eden about this new threat, but not really having anything new to give us. Which brings us into the international peacekeeping forces. I have so many questions about these guys. Why are they an international force and not just a local one? How are we keeping in contact with everyone globally, or are we just assuming that they are all that makes up the world so they get to be like the law and order? So why is now the time they choose to intercept Snowpiercer? Like, they've been doing their revolutions for 7 years now, and this is the first time they've decided they have questions or some kind of authority on train. And I guess also, why have they attacked New Eden? What do they want with Liana? Why couldn't they have come out into the open and talked to the people of New Eden? Perhaps like discuss Leighton, Zara, and Liana going someplace with them for some reason. It feels like they must want Liana for nefarious reasons. Additionally, I'm curious about like what went down on Snowpiercer. Were they there doing justice or demanding resources, or like what was the deal there? How does that connect to New Eden? Do they just assume that because New Eden is made up of mostly tail members who are unticketed passengers, that whatever crimes they were trying on Snowpiercer doesn't apply to these people? Is there some kind of something else? I don't really know. Their name, Peacekeeper, in and of itself, I think is what fascinates me. I guess potentially how peacekeeping intersects with modern day policing, and whether or not this is going to be like a commentary on policing in general. Admiral Anton Milius seems to be the head of these peacekeepers. I also noticed that one of the peacekeepers has an anchor on his face, another one has a rat. There were some other symbols I didn't catch. Going into specific scenes, we don't open with a cartoon montage, and that made me sad because it broke the tradition. And I couldn't help but notice overall there's a huge drop in camera quality and scenes in general. Like the focus seems to be on the shaky camera mode, and I hated it. It like actually gave me vertigo. It made me feel a little bit sick in some scenes. You can't focus on almost anything that's happening. It was just gross. And I'm hoping there'll be a lot less fight scenes and therefore a lot less shaky camera footage I have to sit through. I did love how they recycled the train cars in New Eden. I love that there seemed to be greenery inside every single home and car and shot. It just felt so hopeful and nice and clean and fun. It was really giving everything I wanted it to give in like such a great way. So it sucks that we don't actually see Zara fall to her death. Like, yeah, we got that parting scene with her. But if this had happened in a previous season of Snowpiercer, we would have gotten to see Zara actually falling to her death, probably like cursing Hedwood on the way down, a close-up of Hedwood's like tragic, conflicted, sad face about this fate for Zara, and still gotten Zara communicating with Josie and Boki before the end. And generally, I appreciate that we're off train after 3 seasons being on train. The Snowpiercer comics did tackle several locations that were not Snowpiercer the train. We got a little taste of that in season 3 when we met Asha in the nuclear generator, but she ends up coming on train and we leave that location. So finally having a place like New Eden established off train we're going to focus on, and possibly like the international peacekeeping base, assuming we're going there, feels good and feels true to the comic and like sort of expanding this cold, icy world for us. So moving into those themes. With climate change being real / an overall environmental tone, New Eden is a really cute, self-sustaining, living with the land kind of community. It's got cozy cyberpunk vibes written all over it. And Layton has a great line talking about how the open blue sky seem to heal people and like even tempers out, which is in stark contrast to Till, who's out in an exploration with Ben, talking about how the open sky scares her and she's used to being closed in. The start of the season is that people can change and we can come back from man-made natural disasters. There is those rumblings about the increased seismic activity that Alex is discovering. I can't see necessarily how that would relate to the freeze. If it does, perhaps this is even more unforeseen consequences that we have to ride out. And if it's not related to the freeze, then it's just nature throwing another curveball at us. But we will have to see. For loneliness, isolation, and longing, I think we get to see the best cure for that in New Eden. People coming together, being a community, contributing how they can best contribute, just being involved in a community, participating and supporting each other. Although even within this like idyllic community, there are a couple people who are struggling. We do get to see before Dr. Hedwood leaves that she's still dealing with the loss of her husband and struggling to get over changes that have happened in the community. And Oz has removed himself from like the train community to go live alone on the mountain. And part of this is like symbolizing how he is trying to come to terms with himself, what he's done, who he is, and how he's treated the people around him. And part of it might be like symbolic of how the community has ostracized him. We don't know because we haven't seen Oz interact with anyone besides Boki and Zara, but it seems possible that it could go either way at this juncture and that would have implications for this isolation, loneliness, loss of normalcy theming. And likewise, I think the one line Till says about how the open skies freak her out now sort of shows that you can get used to anything as a human. It like stresses our ability to adapt. It would be very interesting to see people interact from Snowpiercer onto New Eden and sort of like decompress and readjust to the outside world. We don't have that right now, but moving into are the kids okay? We see the most of Liana and it seems like she is thriving in New Eden. She's taking her first step. She has 3 adults around her raising her. Dr. Hedwood is taking care of her when Zara's working at the clinic. Roach comes in and offers a turn to babysit. It feels like a village raising a child. It feels very like natural, positive, and like fuzzy warm feelings kind of vibe. We also get to see that even off-train, Lyanna is not done being like the important special something or other, as it's what the international peacekeeping group comes in to steal from New Eden. We only get a glimpse of Alex in this first season, but it's pretty clear she's not okay. She's like shut off her emotions, perhaps how she feels about not being with her mother, in favor of like focusing in on science and like how she continues to sort of be a cog or a piece in the larger society. We do get to see that there are still characters trying to reach out to her. Javi in particular has a moment where he tries to connect. Leighton does as well, and it seems like all the characters are used to Alex skipping out on the meetings and them having to chase her down. Even if she wasn't a traumatized child, she's at a very difficult age where like balancing nurturing to space is very hard for like an adult teen relationship, and you can feel the characters trying to respect her autonomy, respect her space, but at the same time like sort of reach out, acknowledge that she might be mourning or struggling with something, and showing that they're there for her when and if she wants to talk to them. Miles is mentioned specifically that Josie wants to see him and get him off the train. We obviously don't have any information about him right now. LJ is mentioned by Oz. He doesn't know that she's probably dead. It would be interesting though to see her come off train. It would have also been interesting in season 3 if they'd actually explored why she wanted to stay on Snowpiercer instead of making it just kind of like her being crazy, because she did get on Snowpiercer at the age of 11, and apparently her travel to get there was treacherous because she was almost killed on the way to Snowpiercer. So this like might have permanently made her afraid of getting off the train, and we could have really like explored this, maybe explored her backstory some, but that's not something we did in season 3. Lastly, we have resistance is never useless and Wilford's train is a fortress to class. We don't really get much in these themes just yet, but we also haven't really been on train or been in an opportunity to resist or rebel. I do think we get to see the deconstruction of class a little bit here in New Eden, and I think the show portrays it as like a positive, good, valuable thing. It would be interesting to see if there's some kind of prestige or substitute class system that comes into play when you take away money and wealth and become like a communal group. But we're probably not going to discover that in this season, mostly because I think the main thing is going to be getting Lyanna back. And that's going to be everything I thought about this first episode of Snowpiercer Season 4. I love this show. Rewatching all these episodes to get ready for this was a joy for me. And you know what? Even though the quality here in Season 4 camera-wise is way down, the costuming, the set design, all of that stuff is still giving. And I think the acting is phenomenal. Generally, I'm excited about this premise and can't wait for a strong finish to this show. But talk to me in those comments down below. Are you watching Snowpiercer Season 4? And what did you think of this first episode? And as always, keep reading.